NYX just came out with a brand new line of buttermilk highlighters, and this time we have a cream formula. These come in 7 different shades, so what I really want to do is do some overhead detailed swatches, try on every shade, and do a wear test. These retail for $14, and I gotta say, I was a little bit surprised at the price point. I personally was expecting more around that $10 price point. These come in 7 different shades. As you can see, you roll up the bottom to dispense more product, and you can retract it back as well. I want to say the last highlighters that we got from NYX are the original buttermilk highlights. I definitely was hoping to see a cream formulation, so I'm definitely glad it's here, and let's go ahead and get into looking at each of these shades. First, we have the shade A Whole Melt. Originally, I thought this was going to be kind of like a sheer diamond sparkle highlight, but actually there is no sparkle in this one. It does have a frosty finish, and I gotta say, I don't think that I have a shade quite like this. I was excited, but a little bit nervous to see what it looked like on my skin tone. Okay, let's dive right into trying on all of these shades. I don't think that this one is necessarily intended for my skin tone, but I'm just gonna get a little bit on my fingertip and apply it lightly, because I think I can get a pretty kind of frosty highlight just by applying it that way, rather than just doing a full-on swipe it directly on. Here is what it looks like applied. I actually think that gives my cheek a very pretty icy sheen, and I don't really see a white cast with that either. Here's what it looks like a little bit closer up. Now we have the shade Big Melt Energy. This ended up being a surprise favorite of mine. It has a sort of tan beigey base with really pretty red, blue, and silver sparkles. Hopefully you can see in the swatch though, these sparkle particles are not large, and I do find that they don't look overly glittery on the skin if you're going for a more day-to-day look. And I am intrigued about Big Melt Energy. Typically, I don't like highlights that are too sparkly, but this one has some pretty kind of blue sparkle in it that looks like it won't be too much. So let's go ahead and see. Again, this shade is one that I want to be a little bit careful in my application because I don't want it to look like it has a white cast. I feel like it is, you know, one of the lighter shades, although you can, like, it looks like it's pretty clear on the skin. And you get, again, like a sort of pretty sheen if you are careful with how you apply it. Here is what it looks like fully applied. And then get a little bit closer. Yeah, I like that blue sparkle, kind of gives it a little bit of a blue sheen. Next we have the shade A Whole Melt, and I would describe this as a champagne that doesn't have any sparkle. Something that's kind of interesting is that you really can't tell which shades have sparkle on them by looking at the photos online. At least I couldn't, and I don't think there's a mention of that in the description. I really don't see sparkle in this one, so I think it's going to be a similar effect to That's So Melt. I actually liked applying it with my fingertips, so I'm going to try that again. Oh yeah, this is a pretty champagne. And I've just in general love that there are some options that don't have sparkle, because I know some people definitely prefer highlights without sparkle, and day-to-day that's also my preference. Here is what it looks like fully applied. Here it is closer up. Next we have the shade Meltdown, and I would describe this as a corally peach. It does have a soft kind of subtle shimmer in it. It's not as obvious to me as some of the other shades that I've swatched. The shimmer itself looks like it's a peachy coral. All right, Meltdown is the shade that I tried on the other day when I did my NYX video, kind of new NYX products video. Really like this shade. It's kind of like a peachy coral, and I think it will flatter a wide range of skin tones, especially if you have a medium to deeper skin tone. I think this one will be really pretty. This one does have some sparkle in it, but I don't find it to be like an overpowering amount of sparkle. Here is what it looks like applied, and a little bit closer up. And I do just want to see if I can maybe build up the pigment on this one a little bit. Here is a second layer. Next we have the shade My Melt Era. I think this is going to be a crowd favorite, as often the pink highlighters tend to be. I would describe this shade as a light mauvey pink, and it has blue, purple, and silver sparkle. Again, even though it has sparkle, I don't find it to be particularly overpowering either in the swatch or when I try it on. Love the bluish purple sparkle in this one. Here's what it looks like on my fingertip. Yeah, anything with a blue sparkle or shift, I just really gravitate toward. I love blue highlighters. As you probably know from my recent blue highlighter video, this isn't a blue highlight, but the blue sparkle in it is pretty. And it's not like, again, it's not overpowering or large sparkle. It's definitely a sparkle I think you can wear day to day. Here is what it looks like applied. Now there is a little bit of like, it doesn't feel sticky, but it does have like a little bit of wetness that it kind of maintains. So I don't know if it fully sets down. Again, we are gonna do a wear test at the end. Now we have the shade Melt You Later. Now we're getting into the shades that I think are gonna be really well suited for people with deeper skin tones. This shade is simply described as a bronze, and I don't see any detectable glitter in this one. Okay, and this is another one of the no sparkle highlights. This is one I think I have to be a little bit careful with applying because I think it's gonna be, yeah, it's a little bit deep. But if I just apply a little tiny bit, I think it'll be okay. But I think this will work really well for deeper skin tones. If I'm not too heavy-handed, I do think it'll work for me. Yeah. And a little bit closer up. Last but not least, we have the shade Left on Melt. This is another shade I think is going to be particularly well suited for those that have deeper skin tones. It's described as being a copper. You can see that it has a little bit more pink in it than the shade that I previously swatched, and I don't see any detectable sparkle. And last shade, again, this is going to be very flattering, I think, for deeper skin tones. So I'm going to be a little bit light-handed with my application, but this is a really pretty shade. I like the hint of kind of peach and red that it has in this one. I think it would also be a pretty blush topper. I don't have any blush on because I wanted to show what these shades look like pretty much on a bare cheek. And I do think that these have a buildable opacity, so they can be used on a wide variety of skin tones. Here is what it looks like applied. And closer up. All right, with the exception of highlighter, I have my makeup done, and I am gonna use the shade Big Melt Energy, that one that has sort of the bluish shift to it. And I'm gonna try to apply it with my finger and see if we can get a somewhat generous amount. I do want that blue shift to be apparent. Just building it up a little bit with my fingertip. Here is what it looks like applied. And I'm just gonna get a little bit closer. All right, and a pretty generous amount on both cheeks. I wanna use one of these other colors as well. maybe just a little bit of pink highlight. I don't know how much that you'll be able to see that, but again, just trying to put this highlight on so that we can really do a proper wear test with it. And I want to use shades that you'll really be able to see. All right, I put on the Danessa Myricks mattifying setting spray, and at this point, really where you can see the glow is the top of the cheekbones, where I was very generous with applying highlight. And I think you can also see that pink highlight on the brow bone and the inner corner. All right, I am back. I've had my makeup on for about 13 hours. This wear test was unintentionally longer than I had thought, but it was a busy day, and I want to talk about how this product has held up. First of all, I definitely still feel like you can see that the highlighter is there. So in terms of how it wore, I think it wore really well. Let's talk about the texture a little bit. I did mention that as I was applying the product, it felt a little bit kind of like balmy in texture to the touch, kind of wet to the touch. I don't feel like it stayed feeling that way. I'm not sure whether, you know, I would say it fully set down, but, you know, my skin is kind of combo. I do become a little bit dewier throughout the day. And my skin didn't like sort of eat the product up. I still feel like it's there. It's pretty well intact. It wore in a really pretty way. So if you did have questions about texture and how this product would hold up, I hope that answers that question. I have mentioned previously not ecstatic about this packaging. I think it's okay. It still kind of reminds me of like sort of a deodorant. It is a little bit hard to pull the top off the product. But you know, all of that aside, I think that this is a nice product. It doesn't have a scent to it. I also like the fact that there are some differences between some of the shades having sparkle that is overall not very overpowering in any of the shades, but there are some that you don't have sparkle at all. So I like that they have both. I do wish that this formula was available in some fun shades, because in the previous NYX Buttermelt highlighter launch, we had some greens, we had a purple. So I just would have really liked to see a few shades that were a bit more adventurous in this line as well. Maybe it will expand, I certainly hope so, or that they'll include, you know, some fun shades as well. And I actually wasn't planning to do a deep dive on these highlighters, but I've had a lot of questions about them, and I love highlighters, so I decided to go ahead and do a dedicated video. NYX definitely is one of my favorite, more affordable makeup brands, so I always really enjoy reviewing the products, and I hope that you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.